Welcome to Third Wave Business Systems Advanced Productivity Pack Customizer Macro Line Event Action Type How-To Overview. My name is Dennis Tucker. I'm the Development Manager at Third Wave, and today I'll be showing you how to take advantage of the Line Events Action Type in APP Customizer. When we are talking about line events, we're referring to the action type of the APP Customizer macro feature that allows interaction with UI-based matrix or grid object lines for tasks such as data validations, manipulations, or the performance of calculations. This can be used on any SAP screen designed in the user interface, even those in SAP add-on applications, which contain a grid or matrix object to hold line data, like the lines on a marketing document such as a sales order. If you want to validate that the discount percent, warehouse code, or any other field of a line is completed before the document can be added to the system, line events is what you need. If you want to default a tax code for an item based on a non-standard logic system, line events is what you need. If you want to perform complex shipping or discount calculations, line event is what you need. The line events demonstration that we're going to start with is a very basic data validation example that we're going to be performing on the tax code field, but could be performed on any regular SAP field on a document line or any user-defined field that's been added to the marketing document lines as well. When we attempt to add or update the order, the validations I've put in place are going to verify that a tax code has been filled in for all lines on the order, and if it hasn't, it's going to prevent the add or update and prompt me. If I right-click and go to the APP Customizer menu, Control Properties, click on the Events tab, I can see that I have an event in place for sales tax validation. If I click the Edit button, I'll get the Event Handler screen, which shows that we're not using any validations but simply executing the sales tax line check procedure. Now we had to make sure to set our before action equal to true and action success equal to ignore in order to stop the actions of the SAP button if our validation is not successful. If we go into the sales tax line check procedure and load the macro editor, you'll see that this particular macro consists of only one line with the action type for line events. We'll move over to the value column for the line events action type and click on the value inside. This will launch our line events screen. When we're dealing with line events as an action type in a macro, it's important to note that the events defined will occur once per line on the grid or matrix that the event is defined for. It is possible to break out of line event processing if you're using query validation and have satisfied certain criteria by clicking the break loop checkbox at the end of your value line. For checking the tax code on the order line, I've set up a simple query validation that will take the value of the tax code field from the line, defined here in dynamic syntax, and checks to see if the value is blank or not. If it's blank, it'll return a value of T, otherwise it'll return a value of F. If it's a value of T, I've set up a procedure that will then break the loop and exit the line event processing, and if we drill into this procedure, you'll notice that it's a macro, and that macro is going to have the default SAP action blocked to prevent the add or update of the order. The action type on this macro is a simple set status bar message that will alert the user that all items must have a tax code, shown on the SAP status bar as a short error message. Another useful feature of the APP Customizer line events action type for the macro editor is the ability to utilize line event variables. In addition to using values that I have set up in my previous line event definition screen, I can also utilize line count or line number in any of the logic for any of the action types I'm using in my macro where they can be utilized. The line event variables can also be utilized on the line events definition screen when setting up the value to be used in the final result validation for your line event. The next example that we're going to look at today is how to utilize line events on a form for an add-on application that was designed in the user interface and is based off of a user-defined object. In order to utilize a UI add-on application form in Customizer, that form needs to be registered in APP. we're going to look at the form that we're going to use for our example, which is the RMA maintenance form from ThirdWave's RMA application. As you can see, the RMA maintenance form is registered inside of APP and can be used in this demonstration. What we've done is we've set up a copy to RMA on the sales order form. If I right click and go to the APP Customizer Control Properties for the button, we'll be able to check the events and see that we've set up copy to RMA on the item pressed. If I bring up the event handler, we're going to examine our procedure that we've defined for copying RMA procedures. We'll load the macro editor, and as you can see, a lot of the macro editor obtains values from the sales order screen so that they can be copied over to the RMA maintenance screen. There is at the end a line events which is going to be used to copy the lines from the sales order to the lines on the RMA maintenance form. There's no validation on each line, simply a line procedure for copying RMA lines. We'll go into that macro editor, and you can see that we're going to take the values from certain columns on the sales order line, copy them into variables, and then we're going to copy them onto lines of the RMA maintenance form to successfully copy from one document to the other. The set field values to the TWBS RMA form type are the variables being used to copy from sales order values to columns on the RMA maintenance form. I'll click the Save and Close button on the macro editor, click OK on the procedure handler, apply and close on the event handler, and apply and close on the item properties and events screen to get back to my sales order. I'll click the Copy to RMA button, which will launch my RMA maintenance form, and copy the appropriate fields from the sales order to the RMA maintenance screen, including the values for all lines on the sales order. I'll add my RMA maintenance document in, and I will have successfully copied values from an SAP marketing document screen to a UDO-based UI add-on application screen. The next example that we're going to look at is how we would set up an event on the add of a sales order to determine, based upon factors on the item master data screen, if an item requires shipping, to calculate that shipping and add it as a line on the order. To do that, we're going to need to set up some information on the item master data screen. We're going to go to the Properties tab, and we've set the first property on our item master data to be shipping. So for an item to be included in the shipping calculation, it would have to be checked off with the shipping property, as well as have a number greater than 0 in the shipping percentage user-defined field we've added to the item master data screen. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to go to the second item I'm going to add to my order, and I'm going to change the shipping percentage number to be a value different than the first item. This one I'll change to 8% as opposed to 5% on the A00001 item. I'll update the item for A00002, and then I'll navigate to the third item I'm going to put onto my order, and as you'll be able to see, it is not selected to be included in the shipping calculation, and there is no value entered in the shipping percentage user-defined field. When the order is added or updated in the system, the APP Customizer instructions will loop through the lines on the order and determine whether or not the item requires a cost for shipping, and will add or update a shipping item code line on the order with the value needed. To view how we can set this up, we're going to right-click on the OK button, go to the APP Customizer menu and Control Properties option. Click on the Events tab. Now I've already set up an event in the Item Pressed event, but if you needed to set up a new one, you would simply select the Item Pressed event from the drop-down and click the Define button. I'm going to edit the existing event here, and on the Event Handler screen you can see it's got an event description for the Item Pressed event. We're not going to use any validation here, but we've set up a procedure that we're going to execute. If you needed to create a new one, you would select the Define New option. I'll click on the button to edit my existing procedure, and I'll load the macro editor. As you can see, this macro has two different events. The first is a line events action type, and the second is a set field value, which is going to set the remarks when we've completed our shipping calculation. If I click in the value column on the line events action type line of the macro editor, I'll get the line events screen. This is the heart of the line events action type. You can select an existing line event that's been saved from the drop-down and load it, or click the Define New button to create a brand new line event. You can set your line event to ignore the last row if necessary. For this example, I'll be using query validation on my line events. If I click on the line, I can see the entire query that I'm using, in which case I'm selecting information from the OITM table for the item code used for the order, and I'm selecting that data based upon dynamic syntax set to pull the item code from the line. If the item code does not equal shipping and the query group 1, which is the item property we've set for shipping, is equal to yes, then we're going to return a T value. When the item code equals shipping, we're going to return an F value. If we return to the line event screen, we'll see that we can set up that if a value of T is found, we will not execute a procedure, but instead we will sum up the column or input value that we've designated here. If I copy that out to Notepad, you can see that that is the dynamic syntax for column 21 to be multiplied by the U_shipping, which is the shipping user-defined field from the item code, based upon the item code being equal to the dynamic syntax of the item code from the line, all divided by 100 because the user-defined field for the percentage is set to a whole number. If the value coming back is an F, then we're going to execute a procedure which should remove the shipping line from the order. The final result validation executed for a value of T will be to execute a procedure that would add or update the shipping line, adding it if it doesn't exist, updating it if the shipping line still existed on the order. It will take the value for shipping and add it as the item code, assign the variable 1 value, which is the summation calculations we've done so far, to the column for the price of that shipping item line. When I'm done with my macro, I'll click the Save and Close button. Click the OK button on the Procedure Handler screen. Click the Apply and Close on Line Events. Now that I'm back to my first macro editor, I can click on the Value column of the Set Field Value action type and see that we'll put Shipping Calculated in the Remarks field of the order. Click Save and Close. Click OK on the Procedure Handler screen and Apply and Close on Event Handler and Apply and Close on Item Properties and Events. Now I'm ready to go ahead and add in a brand new order and display the shipping. I'll bring up a new sales order screen, type in a business partner code, put in a delivery date, and select the items that I want for my order. I'll start with item A00001, change the quantity to 2, put in item A00002, and add an item for A00003, which should not be included in the shipping calculation because the item property for shipping is not selected. With the quantity for item A00001 set to 2, the line total for the first line to be included in the shipping calculation is $800 and $200 on the second line, which should also be included in the shipping calculation. If I add the sales order to the system, and I bring up the added order once it's completed, you'll notice that there's a brand new fourth line added to the order with an item code and item description of shipping calculated at $56, which is 5% of the line total for item A00001 at $800 and 8% of line 2 for item A00002 with a line total of $200. Line 3 for item A00003 has been excluded from the calculation because the item property for shipping was not selected. The remarks of the order have also been updated to reflect the value shipping calculated. The next example that we're going to look at is how to calculate a discount based upon fields on the item master. While the first example was driven off of the Add, Update, OK button in SAP, For this example, we're going to use a Calculate Discount button that we've added to the sales order form. If I right-click on the Calculate Discount button and select the APP Customizer menu, Control Properties option, on the Item Properties and Events screen, I'll click on the Events tab, and we'll take a look at the Calculate Discount event that we've set up on the Item Pressed event. Again, this particular event is not going to use validation. We'll click on the button to examine the procedure for calculating the discount that we've set up and load the macro editor. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that this particular macro has two different line events on it. The reason for this is that we're going to be using the first line event to loop through all the lines on the order and sum up the value of the line totals. At the end of that, we're going to evaluate if the total of all line totals on the order exceeds $1,000 or not. If it does exceed $1,000, then we're going to execute additional logic that will calculate the discount per item. If we click on the value column of the line event for line number 1, we can see that this is taking the order line total. It's going through, and for each line there's no validation, but simply summing up the value of column 20 and multiplying it by the value of column 11. So we're taking the item price and multiplying it by the item quantity and putting that into a variable. The second line is an evaluation, a conditional execution, that checks the sum total gross and sees if it's greater than 1,000. If it is, it goes to line 3, which is the second line event. If we click on that, we can determine that this is the calculation of the discount for each line. If we look at the SQL query validation that we're running, this will check to see if item property 2, or the discount, is selected for the item and if the discount percent is greater than 0. If it is, we return a T, otherwise we return an F. If it's a T, we run a procedure called Apply Discount. If I click on the Edit button, I can look at that particular procedure, which is again another macro. If I load the macro editor, this is going to take the value into variable 1 for the discount from OITM based upon the item code equaling the value from the line item code in dynamic syntax. We are going to set the discount column on the line to the value obtained from the OITM or item master table. I'm going to click Apply and Close, and I'll get back to my original macro here. And what you can see is the fourth line's macro command is simply to exit, because we do not need to execute the status bar, which would only be executed on line 5 if the conditional statement from line 2 that the line order totals did not exceed $1,000, we would set a status bar message. I'll click Save and Close, click OK on the Procedure Handler screen, Apply and Close on Event Handler, and Apply and Close on the Item Properties and Events screen. Then I'm back to my sales order, and I can simply click the Calculate Discount button. As you can see, the discount percentage of line 1 for item A00001 was set to 5, and the discount percent for line 2 for A00002 was set to 8. These match the values from the user-defined fields for the percentage of the discount that we've set up on the item master. No item discount was set for line 3, item A00003, because the item property for discount on that item was not selected and no value was specified in the user-defined field for the discount percentage. The Advanced Productivity Pack Customizer Macro Line Events Action Type provides you with a powerful, flexible, easy-to-use tool in your arsenal to assist you in the validation, manipulation, or calculation of data at the line level of any SAP object or user-defined object that supports them. Your imagination is your only limitation in the ways that APP and Third Wave can help you manage your business better. For more information on Third Wave's Advanced Productivity Pack or any of the other applications that Third Wave offers, please visit our website at www.twbs.com. You can click the Contact Us link in the upper right corner of the page. Existing Third Wave partners and customers can obtain more information through the support portal by clicking the customer support link in the upper right corner of the page. Thank you for your time and attention.